Oh, Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May we acquire the capacity to study and understand the scriptures. May our study be brilliant and may we not cavil at Om. Dear brothers and sisters, loving Sairam to all of you. We welcome everyone for the Satsang of the Sathya Sai Baba Center of Arcadia. We are doing the study circle, the first 40 minutes. So we are continuing to do on Gita Vahini, the commentary written by Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba on the Bhagavad Gita, the message given to Arjuna by Lord Krishna, which is for the whole humanity. Now we are going to start on page 25. You should have received it online, soft copy, in which case that is page 25. If you want, we have, I don't know how many books we have. We have the hard copy. It starts on page 43. Anyways, so the reader, they will be reading and just you can follow that also. So we are starting with the thing in the first paragraph. The stars fade into invisibility when the sun rises. So just for the sake of continuity, I will just touch few points which we discussed last week, because two concepts important is Baba said is one is it's like a formula, Sangha Buddhi and Samabuddhi. Sangha Buddhi means feeling always attaching yourself to things of the world. That is Sangha Buddhi. Samabuddhi is being equal-mindedness, always be serene, calm, being established in the divine consciousness, divine thoughts. So he says Samabuddhi will lead to Sthita Prajna. If you have Samabuddhi, you will be Sthita Prajna. You will be man of steady wisdom and you will be always free and joyful, not bound. Whereas you have Sangha Buddhi, you are attached to many things, then you will be Gata Prajna. That means you will get grief, and that is the end of that. It says it is perdition, that is the downfall. And last week we also said how whole beautifully Lord Krishna gives the sequence. When you are exposed to sense objects, you get interest in them. When you have interest in them, you get a desire to have them. When you have a desire to have those objects, if it doesn't happen, you get angry. When you get angry, you get deluded. Your memory doesn't work and your intellect doesn't discriminate. You get really, all your judgment goes when you have anger. And that is one responsible for our downfall. Once your intellect is gone, your downfall. So it's better to nip it in the bud in the beginning itself when these cravings happen to have the objects. And actually, it is also, we discussed last week how the Sthita Prajna, they go beyond likes and dislikes, raga and dvesha. So all of us have some likes, some dislikes, attachment and hatred. Something we like, people, things, and objects, and some we don't like, people, places, and things. So both cause trouble. So you should go beyond these likes and dislikes. It's not easy, constant struggle. Each one of us in the same family, somebody likes sweets, somebody likes spicy stuff, somebody likes eggplant, somebody likes okra, different likes and dislikes. But as much as possible, better to transcend those likes and dislikes. And you may think it is very hard, but there are people who do that. So for us, if there is nice food for me, if I see already, even before you taste, your salivation will be there, or somebody, some pickles or some food they like. Even before you taste, there will be showing that you want to have. But there are great people. There is one of the great saints of Bengal called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the one who introduced the Hare Krishna movement, where we used to jump around, dancing, singing the Hare Krishna, Lord Krishna's name. So it is recorded, and when they put some sugar on his tongue, on the top of the tongue, stayed like that for a long time. It would have been dissolved inside. So it's just some people it just completely conquer their senses. So it is possible, but we need to at least try to curb it. I remember one Swami Swahananda, he's from the Vedanta Center of Hollywood. So we were having little satsang, and then people want to give food to, so that they think they get good merit feeding the holy people. So then somebody says, Swami, what can I bring? What do you like? Then he just passed. Then he asked the people, what do I like? That shows that he doesn't have craving. Whereas I would have answered 5 or 6 items. I like this, I like this, bring that. So just the people that don't have that strong, whatever comes in their way, adrujja lava santushto, they are happy. So that is one, we need to develop this thing going beyond likes and dislikes. So for that, so the first thing is conquering of the desires. Okay, now we'll continue on page 43.
As the stars fade in visibility when the sun rises, so too when the sun of knowledge or gnana rises, grief, agitation, and ignorance vanish. Man has 3 chief instruments: the mind, the intellect, and the senses. It is when these 3 work in unison and cooperate with one another that either immersal in the flux or liberation in the knowledge of the Atma is realized. Krishna anticipated that Arjuna will be puzzled to know what will happen when which operates with which. So he himself provided the answer. Arjuna, he said, when the mind cooperates with the senses, you enter into the flux called samsara. When it subordinates itself to the intellect, you attain the knowledge of the Atma. One path leads to samsara prapti, the other, the Atma prapti. The intellect must resolve. The mind must carry out the resolution so made. That is the correct procedure. The indriyas or senses have to be fully destroyed. That is the hallmark of a sthita prajna. So when all beings are experiencing night, the sthita prajna would keep himself awake. When all beings are awake, the sthita prajna would be asleep. The literal meaning of this is that what is night for one is day for the other. But that would sound absurd. It would mean that the sthita prajna is a person who sleeps during the day and keeps awake at night. The inner meaning of this statement is very profound. Ordinary men are vigilant in affairs that concern the senses that arise out of this world. Wakefulness for them is the care they bestow on worldly pursuits. But the sthita prajna is unconcerned with these very things. He is, so to say, asleep. What does sleep mean? It means the happiness resulting from inactivity of the senses. And vigilance? It means yielding to the senses and catering to them. When ordinary men are pursuing the senses and their demands, the sthita-prajna is asleep. This can also be put into in other words. Forget the atma sthiti and you relapse into deha sthiti. From the atma consciousness stage, you fall into the body consciousness stage. I'll stop there. So, in this passage, this is extremely profound, and I think it's something I read several times. But I think the first paragraph in itself is very beautiful. As the stars fade into invisibility when the sun rises, so too the sun of knowledge or gnana rises. Grief, agitation, and ignorance vanish. It reminds me a lot of Gayatri Mantra, the ultimate meaning of that, illuminating our intellect with the sunlight, as the sunlight would destroy the darkness. When Lord Krishna talks and Bhagwan talk about how we have the mind, the intellect, and the senses, my take on this, he says that they must work in unison. I kind of go a step farther and say they must work in harmony, where you have sort of a balance and you don't become neither the senses nor the intellect should be dominant. The intellect should be able to guide the mind away from the pull of the senses, but then also not, you shouldn't be overly controlled by your intellect either. There should be harmony, there should be balance. And I love this description of how when the ordinary man is awake, the sthita-prajna is asleep. And when the sthita-prajna is awake, the ordinary man is asleep. It's really the awareness that the senses don't control us, the body doesn't control us. It's truly this divine Atma that's within, that pervades everything. And that awareness alone is what keeps you awake. And those that don't necessarily recognize that, which is, probably most of us, kind of go through that sleep and are just a little, they have that slumber where you just go through sort of the routine of life because of all the attachments to all the worldly pursuits that we have.
Yeah, here the Swami made it very clear, right? When another example of Sri Ram said in the night, when the stars, you will see in the night, right? In the daytime, you don't see the stars. That means the stars are not there. They are there. Because of the sunlight, you don't see them. Similarly, all this bondage, everything exists because we have these attachments. That is why beautifully Lord Krishna said, is jnanam labdhva param shantim achirena digacchati. Once you have this knowledge of the Atma, jnana, param shanti, you will get that supreme peace, like what Swam Prashanti. Ordinary peace is something which you get for a short while. You get what you want, you get peaceful. But always that peace disappears. But Prashanti or Paramashanti is what Jesus describes, peace that passeth understanding, the supreme peace which causes ineffable bliss. So once you get jnanam, you get that param shanti. Another thing is, Lord Krishna, another place says, jnanagdi dhagda karmanam tamahuhu panditam buddha. Once you get that fire of knowledge, all your karmas, because they are the one which causes bondage, which causes suffering. So all those things will be gone the minute you have jnana. So this jnana is important. So jnanam labdha, once you get that, you will get that supreme peace, and it will burn away all our karma, sanchita, agami, everything. So that is the thing. But for us to get to the state, that's why Swami was telling, there are three things every one of us have. So the Atma, which is the soul, which is like a witness, which throws the light. Next, this hierarchy, you should remember, Atma is the supreme one, like his son. Then comes the intellect. Intellect is, we always talk about discriminating faculty. Is this good or that good? So there are two types of discrimination, right? Anybody remembers? Individual discrimination and fundamental discrimination. One is selfish. Is it good for me, my family, my friends? That is individual. But fundamental discrimination, is it the highest good of all people? Is the highest good of society, highest good of community? That is the fundamental discrimination. The first one is selfish, that is second is selfless. Next comes the mind. So intellect is the one which controls the mind. Mind is a bundle of thoughts. So just sankalpa, vikalpa. You want to do something, you don't want to do something. You want to do something, you don't. That is the next stage. But the mind is controls the senses. Senses like sight, hearing, speech, walks, everything. And that senses in turn go to sense objects. That is why in Kathopanishad it is beautifully said, it is whole body is compared to a chariot. So the charioteer, like the Lord is there, like the Atma. Then the one who is driving the fighting, that is the Jiva, the embodied being, the intellect. Then these horses are the senses, our senses are the horses. And the reins which hold them is the intellect. If you remember horses without having reins, the horse will go array and then you will be the chariot will fall. So they need to control. And the horses, they will follow a path. That is the sense objects. So all these things are interrelated. So we should be very careful, use the intellect. That is why classical thing is, Katomi says, Shreyo mark, Preyo mark. Is it the path of pleasure or path of goodness? Always senses take it to the path of pleasure. You know something is diabetics of sweets are not good, but it is very, very tasty, pleasant, so you want to. And some movies that disturb your mind, agitation, people want to go temporarily, it gives sense satisfaction. So all these things is take us away from the contact with God. That is called preyomarg, anything which is pleasing to the senses. So you should always say, preyomarg, is it good for me? Is it taking me towards God? So everything we should discriminate. If I'm seeing something, this Swami's God's picture, videos, movies, or then that is good, that takes you to God. Whereas you're seeing some vulgar movies or posters, banners, that takes you away from the ultimate truth. And same thing when you are here, you hear bhajans, you hear God's glory, God's stories, you feel so peaceful and happy. Whereas you hear gossip, rumors, scandal, your mind will be disturbed, which nowadays all the media, social media, the TV and the newspapers, they are full of that. That is why people are agitated. The more, that is why Swami, because TV is television. Television, Swami says television. That means it is poisons your mind. And you can always see. I remember this when I was in practice. This was 7, 8 years ago. So then one lady, she's in 80s and she is very blood pressure. She had the blood pressure problem. She takes medicine. But when I come, her blood pressure is very high. I said, okay, Mary, what happened to your blood pressure high? Oh, yeah, and I see the TV. I don't like this Trump doing this thing, these debates. They all agitate me. I said, why do you have to watch? Oh, I'm interested. You don't watch, you don't need to get agitated. So you are the one who chose to be agitated. So, I never thought like that, she said, because naturally people are just tend to do that. So we choose that. So if you want, hear God's glories. And the same thing, talking. When you want to talk good things about God, or repeat His name. That is best. Our best is silence. Just as I say, silence cannot be misquoted. Silence. If you are a silent person, you have no enemies because there is nothing to argue about or fight. So that's how. And if you have feet, if you want to go to places, don't go to wrong places, places of gambling or sense pleasures. Go to the places of worship, a temple, a church, or your own puja room, a shrine room. That's what. And use the hands for the worship of God, thinking about Him, or doing a rosary, repeating the name. So that's why every sense object, instead of trying to fight to control, you can use it for the divine thing. Then automatically you don't need to fight. Otherwise, from today onwards, I will see. Instead of that, your eyes crave for something, ears crave. So use it for those things. A stage will come, you're always in that thoughts of God. That is what another thing. Because, and here he was talking about this. This is Shloka 69. This is the what Nirupama was reading. That is the famous slokam. Yanisha sarva bhutanam asyam jagrati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sanisho pashato manehi. Literally, if you translate, if you see anything, the wise man sleeps when the other people are active. And the wise man is awake when other people are sleeping. Right? It looks, it doesn't look, so that means all these people, literally translate, all the people, night watchmen, they are awake when a lot of people are sleeping. And the night, so are people who go to these places in Las Vegas, I heard, I didn't go area. So the people are all active whole night and excited, they stay. So they are all moonies because they are everybody's sleeping, but they are active. So the real meaning, that's why Swami says inner meaning is, the people, the worldly minded people, they are awake for these sense pleasures. Whereas the spiritual people, they are dead. It doesn't bother, it doesn't stimulate them. And that is really, that means they are not awake to the sense pleasures, they are awake for the divine thought. The worldly people, they are awake for this worldly pleasure, they are not awake for the Atmic stage. That is why he says you need to have that Atmic stage. That is the inner meaning. So, because in spite of repeatedly saying these senses are so powerful, even for a wise man, they always pull us because they have very much power, this turbulent, they create turbulence in the mind. That is why beautifully Lord Krishna says in the same chapter we discussed in thing, Matra sparshastu kaunteya itoshna samadukkada. Is by coming in contact with the sense objects, we get Sita Ushna, cold and heat, and joy and sorrow. That is the thing. It says, why do you get it? You like in touch with something cold, you'll get cold. If something hot, and similarly come in contact with sense object, you get joy and pleasure. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna samadukkada. What is the nature of them? Agama payino. They come and go. It says, you tell me anybody has always good experience, always bad. No. That's why they call passing cloud. These two shall go. Some days are good, some days are bad. Agama apayino. Come and go. Anityam, they are temporary. Whether it is pleasure or pain, they are temporary. Anityam. So, titichasva bharata, O Arjuna. So try to exercise control, forbearance, patience. So because the nature of these sense objects is when you have got these pleasures and pain, they'll give you and joy and sorrow, but they come and go, they are temporary. So exercise the control. Another place even more forcefully, these are all Lord Krishna's, yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkayona evate. Whatever we come in contact with, which gives pleasure, the beautiful word difficult to translate in English, dukkha yoni. That means they are impregnated with sorrow. You just think is yoni means pregnant. They are already, the sorrow is in them. You are not seeing this. Ehi samsparsha jabhoga dukkha yoni evata. Like yoni said, they are already carrying in their womb this sorrow. So adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. They have a beginning, they have a end. All the things, wherever sense pleasures, whatever in the world, you have a beginning, Adi, Anta. So what is today? Buddha is smart guy. Natyeshu ramate Buddha. Real smart man. This is the nature of the thing. They are impregnated. Actually, the good word, impregnated with sorrow. All this contact. So they have beginning and end. I don't want something which has no beginning, no end. What is that? Atmic bliss. Divine bliss. There is no coming, no going. No jnana is nothing comes. It's always there. So I want that which doesn't come and go. That is what Adyant Natesh Ramate. So if you want to be a wise man, Natesh Ramate, you don't enjoy in those things. But most of us would get tempted into this and enjoy that. So just this is constantly reminding ourselves. So these are the very important concepts we have talked about. Anybody has any comment? This is a study circle. If you have any questions, comments, please don't hesitate to ask.
This is what happens to the ordinary man. He sleeps in the Atma stage and wakes into the Deha Sthiti. The Sthita Prajna's case is different. He sleeps in the Deha consciousness and wakes in the awareness of the Atma. He will not awake even by mistake in the sensory world, the world where the ordinary man is most vigilant. This is the inner meaning. It is far from the literal meaning, which, if taken as true, would entitle thieves, watchmen, and others to the name Sthita Prajna. For all these keep awake at nights and sleep during the day. Only those who have given up traces of desire and become mere instruments can achieve Shanti. Krishna ends the description of the Sthita Prajna with an emphasis on Kamanatyaga, the giving up of desire. To man sorrowing on the battlefield of life, bewildered by the attractions and the distractions, not knowing where to turn and which road to take, Madhava taught this Sankhya Yoga. The other chapters are like commentaries on the teaching in this chapter. Arjuna, prepare yourself for giving up the mind, for being merged in your own self. Withdraw the mind from the Sabda, Sparsa, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha categories, the 5 elements. Then you become a Sthita Prajna, said Krishna. In this 2 chapter, he elaborated in the 11th to 30th sloka on the Atma Tattva in a simple, easily understandable style. Then, from the 39th to 75th sloka, he taught the Dharma-karma attitude that is essential for attaining the Godhead, an attitude that is based on the Karma Yoga, which itself is embodied in the Samatha Buddhi already prescribed. So I always like this analogy of how the battlefield is real, how we're always kind of going through battles in a human life. And I think what Narendranath Uncle said too is that if you take the literal meaning, you're basically saying that these people that do their work at night, thieves and whatnot, would essentially be Sthita Prajna. So he really does a nice job of explaining that being asleep is very different when we think about just the human existence. And again, it's sort of this routine of, you wake up in the morning, you go to work, you make your salary, you eat your food, you come home, and everything is very sense and attachment based. And it's all about finding balance and really harmony. When he says here to prepare to give up the mind, we know that Arjuna is really sort of feeling bad about going into this battle and having to have a conflict with his family members because he has that relationship with them. But it's finding that balance where you perform your dharma, you detach yourself from even just the visual idea of this is somebody that is your relative and you're having to perform something that maybe is difficult for you, and not really even worrying about the result, just doing what's right and following God's guidance. And I think that is a lot of what is written here, sort of the basis for the battles that we all fight every day.
Yeah, that is the important. All of us need to remember this Bhagavad Gita is given where? In the middle of the battlefield. Most of the spiritual talks are given like in Upanishads, in the depth of forest and caves, Himalayan caves, and places of very quiet solitude where the sages are giving discourse and the disciples sit there. Even today in Rishikesh and Haridwar, in northern part of India, in the Himalayan areas, a lot of sages in their tapas doing penance. But Lord Krishna did not give it there. He gave it in the middle of battlefield. The message is, that is why it starts the whole Bhagavad Gita, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre. Kurukshetra means field of action. So everybody says, once you are born till you die, we are all involved in action. There's nobody who can escape. But what kind of field of action? Dharma Kshetre, field of action where you lead your life based on dharma. That is the most thing. Every one of us are in field of action, whether at home or at work or in the society. Someplace we are all working, but that work should be based on dharma kshetra. That is why this chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, is very important. As Swami said, the next 16 chapters till 18 chapter, there are commentaries on this. So once we master this, really he elaborates on this concept in the next many chapters. But for that, you should say, as I said, should stick to dharma. That is what the whole thing is. Not what action you do, whether you are sticking to dharma. And Lord, this man, Arjuna, he would kill the enemies without any second thought. Just they come, he will annihilate them. Why he is hesitating is because of his attachment to this family. So, but whereas Lord Krishna is different, he doesn't care. His own son, Samba, one time he does a mistake. So then the sage curses and says, your whole Yadava clan will be destroyed. Lord Krishna can prevent that. He did, because what his son Samba did it, adharmic. So wherever there is not dharma, he opposes. It doesn't matter who he is. He says always, because see, they say he supported Pandavas, not Kauravas. He says, no, anybody who follows dharma, I will support. Anybody who follows adharma, I came to eliminate them. So that is what it is. We also, it is not my kith and kin, my friends. Yeah, we love all, but they are on adharmic path, we should not support them. Then because according to Mahabharata, you are also part of that. Even you are a witness or supporter of anything which knowingly is not good, then you have to pay a part of that karma. So best is just resist from that, avoid that, and tell that this is very important lesson. When people follow dharma, then Lord blesses. Like classical example, you have Sri Rama. His own father died, passed away, so he didn't even could not do the rites, ultimate rite. But a bird called Jatayu, which because of the love for God, sacrificed life, and he did the rites, and he made him elevate the soul, the highest things. So it is not whether you are a human or an animal, but how much love and sacrifice we have. So that is what the same thing. The lady, tribal woman, Shabari. So her life was redeemed because she gave a fruits which are tasted already thing, but her motive was good. She wanted to give the best fruits to the Lord Rama. So he looks at the heart. Swami says God is Bhava Priya, not Bahya Priya. He doesn't look at what kind of feeling you have. That is very, very important. So that is why Lord Krishna doesn't, his own nephew called Abhimanyu, he was being killed. So Lord Krishna, if he wanted, he could stop it. He didn't do that. because that guy has a lot of ego and he is a source of trouble. And same thing, another nephew called Gatotkaja, a very powerful guy. He didn't stop, but he protected good people like Arjuna, Dharmaraja, because they are on the path of Dharma. So the lesson for us is whenever we need to discriminate, is it dharmic or not? Is it truthful? Is it good? Then you support wherever it is, whether in the government, in the family, at workplace. So if it is not dharmic, we should be able to stand firm and say, hey, I don't agree with that. I don't support that. So don't yield to the pressure. That is the important lesson we have. Yeah.
There is a comment here.
Mhm.
Similar to sleep while awake and awake while sleep. Previous.
Mhm.
One day Krishna informs his wife, Rukmani, that sage Durvasa is camping on the other side of the river, Yamuna, and tells her, prepare a sumptuous meal and take it to the sage and feed him. He will be pleased and will bless you. Rukmani prepares the food, but when she goes to the river, she was not able to find any boatman to take her across the river. So she seeks the help of Krishna. He tells her, say to the river that the Nitya Brahmachari has asked her to part and let you cross. Rukmani was surprised, but still she says what she was asked to say, and the river indeed parts and lets her across it. Rukmani goes to the sage and feeds him, and the sage was indeed pleased and he blesses her. When she has to leave, she tells him, please help me cross the river. Sage Durvasa says, tell the river that the Nitya Upavasi, one who has never eaten food, has asked her to part and let you cross. Again, Rukmani is surprised and thinks, just now he had some sumptuous meal, yet he calls himself Nitya Upavasi, that means he has not eaten. Still, she doesn't ask him anything and follows his instruction. The river indeed parts when she tells that the Nitya Upavasi had asked her to part. Rukmani reaches the other side and, unable to control the curiosity, asks Krishna, you called yourselves Nitya Brahmachari, that means never married. And the sage called himself Nitya Upavasi after eating the food, even though he ate the food, but I offered him, and the river agreed to both and parted. I'm not able to understand. Krishna laughs and tells her, when we perform an action, we understand that it is the body which is performing the action. The soul is not unattached. That soul does not marry and does not take food.
Yeah. So hope everybody got the message. So just those actions of the wise people you can't understand. So it looks like they're telling lies, contrary to he has got so many wives and he says I'm the brahmachari, celibate, whereas that man ate, because they identify themselves with the atmic consciousness. So instead of the body consciousness. So if you have identify with the body consciousness, then it is true you ate and you had wives. But when the Atma, as you said in the beginning itself, like Swami said here, the chapter 2, the whole thing up to the slokas 11th to 38 is about Atma and Anatma. What is Atma? Something which cannot be burned, something which cannot be killed, is eternal, and it doesn't go through the stages of childhood and youth and old age. It is eternal. Whereas what all, most of the time, we are so conditioned, we identify with self, the body. We need to deprogram ourselves. We are programmed, I am this body, mind, and intellect. We need to deprogram, I am not this body, I am not this mind, intellect. That for that, the whole spiritual practice is that. Once we do that, then we live in that stage of Atmic consciousness, where these people like Durvasa, the great sage, and also Lord is an avatar Krishna, they live in that stage. So what they say becomes truth. Otherwise, the river won't yield if it is a lie. So it shows That how we that there's a good anecdote, good story, Swami. Okay, so I think if there is no other comment, we can conclude. Is there anybody else has any
So
comment? You want to? Yeah, you want.
theoretically, everybody reads, and but I always look at Swami's. So the things what Swami, something simple he says, and if we catch one thing of that and just go on doing and not analyzing quite a bit, just doing what that will save. I mean, it will take us automatically to that. For example, some Swami says, "Oh, just serve everyone, serve all," and he had a story what Dr. Reddy said on that day when that man just jumped. The story that he talked about a person when there was some blockage in the sewage, and then the Sevadal just jumped and he just felt oneness, and then he served. He did not think about anything, and he thought about only one thing, that to serve. So it is that, I mean, he has been, must have been so, that soul has been that waiting to do that kind of thing, and then it matched. But what it matters is that simple thing, like Swami says, love all, serve all. That it really matters it how we can just follow that, and we don't need to worry about all other things. It will automatically take it. We need to know the principle, though. The principle is quite important, and we have to have that knowledge. But we should not be, oh, I'm not doing this. We should not even think, oh, maybe that is a problem, so I failed. We don't need to think like that also, because sometimes people think when I failed, oh, it is a little depressing. We should not fail that. Okay, you cannot think about the past, but let us all think in that positive way, and then go on trying to get that.
No, but the service is talking about it should be the way Swami said you connect it to the Atmic stage. But it should be like that story I think it is spontaneous. That means that guy didn't plan, okay, this happens. He didn't know it will block it. He jumped into the sewage and God said. So he just spontaneously they get because of their thing. And everybody we think that it's service. Swami says we always think service means giving to the sandwich to the poor, or giving water to the thirsty, or giving health care to the needy people, or educate. That is, yes, that is all service. But Swami says not necessarily everyone can do service, even sitting in one place. Just quietly sit and send the loving thoughts. Let the whole world be happy. I will send the thoughts of love. That is why Ramana Maharshi and Swami Vivekananda said, those sages in Himalayas sitting in the caves, they may not even come out, but their thoughts penetrate the walls of those caves and travel around the world and try to bring peace. So we need, so just having loving thoughts is, and Swami says, if somebody is there, put a smiling face, encouraging. I think that is service, Swami says. And if you have encouraging somebody is down, people don't worry, this will also pass, nothing will happen, you will get better. Just that encouraging words, that itself is also a service. And Swami says, put a pat on the back, you are doing good job. That is a service. So service doesn't need to be only confined. Everyone has an opportunity to service. And every day we should think whether it could be in the thought process, or by words, or by gestures, or by giving food somehow or other, you make somebody else happy. That's the whole thing. That all becomes service. So, and God gives us the opportunities, but we need to grab them. Sometimes we don't. We'll do that later because of our inertia or whatever it is. But we need to, when you have an opportunity, like if you say computer people, I tell Karthik, some of us struggle with computers. We can't do this. Is it right to do or not? You tell them, no, 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 that is not. So I get spam thing. I don't know whether it's spam and real. I call and they say that that is a service. You think that's I'm helping, but for that person, that is hard. Even in the hospital, I used to go. As quickly I was making rounds. We all go through that. Somebody say, oh, which way to go to the 4 North building? Which row? Just take 1 minute because we're all busy. Take time. No, you have to go there, turn there. This one. You can see they're so thankful and joyful because for them they're lost in that area. Guide them. So it looks like a very simple act, but makes a difference. Same thing, email, somebody says that you clarify some doubt, give them encouragement, they feel happy. So the lesson is we should grab all opportunities and pray to Swami, he will provide opportunity. But when he gives us, we need to make use of that. That is okay. So we'll continue next week.